What's up, YouTube? My name is Tom Mack, and just last weekend I was able to win the main event at Lds Raleigh using a deck I'd like to call Plasma Frogs. And for the most part, it's a pretty basic frog hero list, but with just a little bit of spice to it. Something that me and my friend Sean have been working on for some time. But originally, we wanted to make a Plasma Frog list with triple Plasma in it, using stuff like Phantom Sky Blaster, Fires of Doomsday, and stuff like that. But seeing how it kept going around that North Carolina was a really big, GB, format, we wanted to try to trim down a bit on some of the weaker cards, such as Sky Blaster, Fires of Doomsday, and just make this deck a little more capable of playing against GBs in general. So we still kept in some of the bigger cards that we really like, such as Dandelion, Scapegoat, and at least one copy of Plasma. So just to talk a bit about my tournament experience itself, this is the first LDS event that I've been to. I will say I've been to lots of events in my time of playing this game, and I will say that this is probably one of the most smoothest ranked events I've ever been to. So I really appreciate Yggdrasil for hosting, and shout out to Luis, who's a great host. Really, cares about the player base itself and listens to, what the people want, especially with giving out sick prizes like these, Dark Armat and Multi-Kaises. Can't have enough Multi-Kaises. So, but overall, again, really solid event. We'll start with round one. So that's the easiest. I was fortunate enough to have a no-show. No opponent showed up, which I was extremely grateful for because I had 2-3 hours of sleep. So I was really grateful for that. Then we get to round two. I played against a Frog Hero guy. He beat me game one. Just opened a very typical Frog plays, and he had stuff like Ryza, and I want to say he water arted me. I'm not 100%, but I had a very slow start, so wasn't looking great. Then game two was when eventually I attacked him directly, and he dropped the Gores, and that was when I was able to go main phase two. Summon Plasma, absorb the Gores to make Gores, or Summon Plasma to make the Gores 3250, I believe. And he just stayed on the board for a while, so I took that game. Then game three was just, I think I just water arted him and took away a key piece, and that was pretty much it. Next round was Amaryllis, which was a little scary because it's one of the decks I was kind of worried about, just a Titanial deck because it can out Plasma. But game one, I water arted and took away his Lone Fire Blossom and just left him with a hand of Titanial, Amaryllis, Brain Control. So he wasn't playing too many cards that game. Then game two, he sided into Skill Drain, Barbaros, and he opened a lone, those two with Skill Drain and Lone Fire. So I just wasn't in that game. Then game three, he summoned Lila. He milled 9 cards, all with spells and traps. I've actually never seen them before, so just very lucky from there. The next round went against Frog Hero again. But this guy, he main decked Cyber Dragon, which I'm assuming was a call for GBs, I'm not sure. This was a game where it was a bit of a learning experience for me, because this is the first time I've used this deck before. This game taught me to try to be very patient with my cards, be really, really patient, and not just slam cards, just because situation seems like it calls for it. But it was a very passive game that I remember, and it got to a point where he tributed his Treeborn Frog for Cyber Dragon, and he attacked me, and then I brought out my Treeborn Frog, and I brought out Malicious Edge, hit his Cyber Dragon, and then he tried to bring out his Malicious Edge, attack over it, but I Regeki Break, and the Malicious Edge just took over the game. That was pretty much what I remember from that match. The next round was, I believe, Black Wings. Again, this is another game where I needed to learn patience. Because one thing I've learned from watching dozens of videos of just how to learn how to play this deck, was a lot of people shotgun Spiritual Water Art to just take away the key play, cripple Black Whirlwind and stuff like that. But one of these games against a Blackwood player, I had Dew Frog with Water Art, and I was just thinking, and it might be obvious to most people, but I figured, why Water Art the Dew Frog, since Blackwoods have a hard time getting over it anyway. I don't want to make your job easier, so I decided to just sit on that for I think 3 turns or so, which eventually paid off because it got to a turn where I summoned Stratos and I attacked his set monster, and I think he had 2 back row and a set monster, and he went Chain Mirror Force, which totally fine with. And then I said, okay, that's fine. And he chained Icarus Attack, and I think it was a set Shura. And he tried to target my Dew Frog and back row, which I chained with Water Art. So overall, I lost a Stratos, which replaced itself. And then I lost my Dew Frog Water Art, but he lost a monster on the field, Mirror Force, Icarus Attack, and a card in his hand. I don't remember what I ripped from his hand, but usually when you Water Art someone, you take away something pretty important. So, yeah, that was that. And then, let's see, what else? That game was also the only time I've actually ever summoned a Synchro Monster the whole day. I summoned a Colossal Fighter, using Junk, 2 swaps, and Treeborn, and he summoned a Shura with no back row, but overall I still lost that game. But yeah, I don't think I've ever summoned a Synchro Monster ever again. Yeah, and then next round, I go against the Frog Hero match again. This was the feature match. This feature was probably one of the more challenging matches I had to play because it was the start of me not opening access to a Treeborn Frog for the longest time. And actually, the only time I did open Treeborn Frog against this guy was because I had Future Fusion, which is still not exactly access to the Treeborn Frog because the Fufu kept it from coming out. But that was a really rough game. Game 2, I had triple Caius and a Malicious Edge in my hand for a long time, and he had a 0 on the board. So there was a lot of pressure for me to just I was I just need to draw some access to Treeborn Frog and just grind the game out a bit because I had a set turn tribute set. And eventually I topped a Subtoad, use Subtoad, get swap, mill Treeborn in defense, and pass. And I knew his hand because I Water Arted him, and I knew he had a Fossil in his hand, and I was, I think, pretty low because 0 got in for 1 or 2 shots. And I figured my only chance is he's going to summon that Faustina and try to swing in for lethal, and thankfully he did. So I flipped Torrential Tribute, blew up his board. He went main phase 2, Miracle Fusion out a Gaia, attacked me. But then after that, all my Caiuses were live, so they all just came out one turn after the other. So that was that game. Yeah, so that was me at 6-0. Then next round, round 7, was against Marcus Hayden. Shout out to him and his channel Metaphos. Really cool dude. Again, I never used his deck before, so I was kind of learning along the way. And after the match was over, he was kind enough to answer some questions about how I can side deck against certain matchups and explain some reasoning. So I really appreciate he took the time to do that. But this game, pretty sure it was just one just because I had Water Art again, and I left him with Ryza and Caius in his hand, and he had Treeborn Frog, and I didn't have a board, so he wasn't gonna play cards for a bit. And then game 2, I just remember I had a ton of cards, really strong cards. I had Vanity's Fiend, such like that, and he Water Arted me, and I showed him I think I had Stratos, Vanity's Fiend, Miracle, Brain. It was a stacked hand. And I think this was the game where I had an Ocean on the board, and it was really cool that I used Ocean to return a 0 on my field back to the extra deck to Regeki the board and swing for game. I think that was this game, and if I'm mistaken, that's my bad. But yeah, so again, real cool dude. Mark Hayden, really good player. And then we get to round 8 against Twilight. Lost to that one, so I'm not going too much into that one. So yeah, ended the Swiss rounds going 7-1, and got second place, so it felt pretty good. Then we get to top 16. top 16, I go against Vayu, my very first one, which is just crazy to me because I thought Vayu would be everywhere. Game 1, I think it's just normal frog shenanigans. Yeah, and then game 2, he opened like the most perfect hand against a frog deck ever. It's like Grepher, Arming Access, Deck Devi, Oppression, Armageddon Knight. So, and I had Miracle Fusion, didn't matter. I had Alias, didn't matter, and I think he hit 2 or 3 frogs, so that's fine. And then game 3, I was able to clap back, and I opened Stratos Swap Water Art, and I took away something important, but I left his hand with like a Lightning Vortex. He like swung at me. I dropped the Gores. I forced him to use Lightning Vortex to just like keep the put in his hand, and just eventually, took the game from there. So there's that. And then the top 8, I went against Frazier. Shout out to him. Pretty much the inventor of Frog Heroes, or perfecting it anyway. And shout out to his channel, I Am Nerd. He got to help me try to learn a bit about the deck as well. So really appreciate that. Game 1, I learned something new. Don't leave a frog in attack mode against Frog with DK. It's not going to go very well. I left a Dew Frog in attack mode when I extra summoned it, and he just did a ton of synchro plays and just pushed his whole board into my Dew Frog. So I was like, that's really cool. I never knew about using Substoad that way. So maybe at some point I'll try to use that myself. But then, thankfully in game 2, I opened with Vandy's Fiend Dust Shoot. Very, very good against frogs, if you weren't aware. And that worked so well, I got it again in game 3. So, thankfully I took that one. Yeah, and then move on to top 4. Go against Gage, Nim. This one, he opened like kind of slow, so I was like pretty lucky here. Believe I started with same thing, swap Stratos, etc. Mill Treeborn, bounce Stratos back to my hand, and I left swap on the field. And he had a set monster, which I had a feeling was hands, because usually when value players just set one monster and nothing else, there's a high chance that it's probably a hamster, because they don't want to get blown up by an Icarus attack and just lose their Raikou in their back row to an Icarus. So I left the swap on the field, set Mirror Force, and thankfully I was correct by not attacking. It was a hamster. So he flipped it up, summoned Armageddon Knight, milled a Gardna, I believe, and he attacked him with Mirror Force, where, I think he passed after that, and I think I just brought back Treeborn, sacked my Caius, 34, swap, bounce Caius, and that was it from there. Then game 2 was pretty quick as well. He went first, setting a back row. I set Scapegoat Dust Tornado, and he attempted to heavy, where I changed Scapegoat, and I had Dust with the Impression that he had set. And I think he just swung with a Grepher. Then the next turn, I summoned out Plasma, took the Grepher, and yeah, I think that was it from there. Like, his hand was like just, I think, all monsters. So again, very lucky that it turned out that way. But yeah, solid games. Then we get to the finals. So this is probably where I've been, I could have played a little better and like think out my lines more. But I opened with the Subloop, and I had a Caius, and I think I had Dust Shoot too, so it's kind of embarrassing that I actually lost this game. But I Dust Shoot him, and I saw Bowen had a Monster Incarnation's hand, and he had a decent-sized grave, so I should have kept the Caius in my hand, but my mindset against Lightsworn is, summon cards, tap for damage, put them like real low to make them a little nervous of summoning JD and paying 1,000. But yeah, then overall in the end, I had the sub block, or the dupe block, and a Caius on the board, and he went Reincarnation for Dark Arm. Summoned Dark Arm, blew my board, and yeah, I just died. Game 2, I opened a ton of spell cards in my hand, but that is not necessarily a bad thing in this build. So I ended up passing my first turn after giving it some thought, and thankfully all Bowen did was just summon Lila, and he passed, where I was able to clap back with Fufu for Dandy, Stratos for Plasma, and just keep swinging Plasma. And he pretty much stayed on the board till the end of the game, where he swung for like 5,500, and I was able to end the game on a Miracle Fusion for exact 2,500. So that was cool. And then game 3, this one I misplayed again. I had the swap Stratos play, but I milled Treeborn Frog to the grave instead of just a dead water monster, so I can Miracle Fusion away, which I thought was going to cost me because my hand had double Kai's for a good while. So, but again, my mindset was just I want to be really aggressive. I want to put much pressure on the board and attack through any potential Honest, because I know he had Garden in his grave, so I want to make sure that Lumina was destroyed. So thankfully I was able to clear his board, and then later on I drew access to Swap Frog to Military Warn, so that was really lucky because again I was stuck with I had double Water Art, double Caius, and I Regeki Braked, pitched one of the Water Arts to pop his set Raikou because I was really scared of Vandy's Fiend. But yeah, that meant a lot because that Swap Frog made my Water Art live, so I could see his hand of Oppression Wolf, discard Oppression. He swung at me with Jane, and my Tree One came back, and I was able to sack it for Caius and just keep applying the pressure from there. And thankfully it played out the way I wanted to, because my mindset that game was to put him around the 3,400 range, so if he did summon JD and he paid 1,000, I can summon Caius to banish JD and swing for 24 per game. So I'm really glad it played out that way because I left him at 3,200. So yeah, really happy that it played out as I thought it was going to in my head, and yeah, came away with the win. So felt really good. Yeah, overall only dropped one match the whole day. So simple to say that this deck performed very well. But yeah, just want to say, and also shout out to Yggdrasil. It's not obvious, but again, like these guys have been doing like amazing considering it's like only their second event. I have no doubt they're going to keep getting better and better. I feel like they learn things from each event they do, and they apply that to the next event, and especially like with the clock. Like the clock was just on a giant screen, so really easy to see. You don't have to like worry about crowds of people if you're playing like someone slow and you're the last match, and you have to worry about like how much time's left in the round and stuff like that. So really cool that they had that available. So and also like the judges there too. They didn't have a lot of judges, but honestly, the judges were great. There was no complaints at all. You call for a judge, they're there within 30 seconds, and I've never had that with just the dozens and dozens of events I played at. So again, kudos to you guys. Yggdrasil, you guys are killing it, and I have no doubt you're going to keep getting better and better. So yeah, thanks for that. But yeah, so figured now I'll just go into the deck profile a bit. I'll skip over most of the obvious stuff. I don't want to get too into it. But I just want to show some of my choices I've made for what I played. Yeah, and just the thought process of like, how I sided on some games, and just, again, like how I tweaked this a bit to be more prepared for North Carolina itself. So, yeah. All right, so to start off, we have the obvious 3 Caius, 3 Swap, 3 Sub, 2 Treeborn, 2 Dupe, Unifrog. Again, not too much to explain here. I think this ratio is pretty much stable for every frog list, so say about that. Get to the hero package: Stratos, Alias, Ocean, much such. This guy was actually included in the last second. He was originally a second Plasma, but something I learned about this deck is it's actually really aggressive, and I want to keep that idea with this deck to just keep applying pressure and pressure. So I ended up dropping the Plasma for this, just because, again, it's a little better during the GB format. Pierce through damage, through Vayu, Raikou, and especially Treeborn Frog. So really happy I included him. He won me a few games, and yeah, just thought he was really solid. And then main man himself, Plasma. I think I summoned him 5 or 6 times throughout the whole day. There was 2 or 3 times where I searched it and then he probably just scooped. because I guess they just knew this was going to be game over once I dropped it. But he was a great inclusion to the deck. Shout out to my friend Sean for suggesting this. It's just nice to be able to search for a boss monster, because he's just really easy to access. Stratos, E-Call Rhoda, and it's nice that you can just keep extending the board, after your battle phase is over, in case they drop the Gores or, etc. But I think every time I dropped him, it was just game over. So he was like absolutely a key part of this deck, and really happy I got to put him in. He also shares a lot of great support cards that can go along with Substitute, such as Dandelion and Scapegoat. So I'll get into that more once we get to that point. Then the rest, Scores, Junk, again, I think I only used it once, and Dandelion. Again, just more support for Plasma, but again, great synergy with Substitute. So there's that. We get spells, Triple Miracle. It's just broken. MST, Rhoda, E-Call, Heavy, Brain, 1-for-1. Then Fufu and Scapegoat. I saw like a lot of people haven't really used Fufu too much in Frog Hero lists that I've seen. I remember Fraser introduced this idea a while ago, and I feel like I haven't seen it too much. But in this version, obviously, it's a lot better because you get to mill a Dandy and instantly summon Plasma. And again, more support cards for Plasma, Scapegoat. I cannot say like how broken this card is, but because I only drew it one time. But when I was solitarying with this deck, and I did like a couple games on Dueling Book, the idea is like when you flip this and you draw with a Substitute, you can +4. You can convert the 4 tokens into 4 frogs, especially into 2 of the dupe frogs on the field. So you have the hard dupe block, and then you can add 2 swap frogs to your hand, which is very crucial for summoning Plasma. Because in this deck you get access to Truman Frogs so quickly, mill Treeborn, bring it back. All you do is normal summon a monster and then just quick special summon. So having that discard special summon swap frog option is really, really important. In theory, really, really good. And Fufu, not too much to say, but again, quick access to the Dandy and just thins on your deck. Makes Miracle Fusions live, so really solid. Okay, then we get to the traps. Triple Geki Break. This card is absolutely amazing. It's probably one of the most versatile cards I've ever used. Even though the effect is so simple, but in my opinion, a lot of the most simplest effects are the most broken. But the fact that this card can help you reduce pressure because your opponent's board is getting very aggressive, or you can move stuff out of the way because you're trying to be really aggressive, or they have floodgates such as Oppression, Skill Drain, Fossil or Vanity Fiend that's in the way. It can clear either of those cards. So really, really amazing. Really happy I played 3 copies. Again, this was shout out to Sean because I really wanted to do 2 to make this deck 40, but he convinced me 41 is just fine with the percentage of just opening with a frog. So really glad we did 3. And then the card that made me feel comfortable using Plasma in this deck, Spiritual Water Art. This card was absolutely amazing every time I've opened it. And I say this makes me feel really comfortable playing Plasma because I know how vulnerable Plasma can be, just simply outed by something as small as a D Prison or a Bottomless Trap Hole. But the things I liked about Plasma is that even if I summon Plasma into back row, if I get the chance to use his effect to call priority, at least he's trading for 2 cards. He's going to kill a monster and he's going to hit the back row. So he kind of reminds me of a Monarch in some sort of way. But using the Water Art to take away stuff as simple as a D Prison. But I've also taken away Brain Control, Soul Exchange. I took away a Dust Shoot. That was really cool. This card, when you take away those certain outs to Plasma, it means he's going to stay on the field even longer. So it just increases your chance of winning the game overall. So really, really good. And then the remaining cards just Dust Shoot, Torrential Mirror Force. Again, just very staple cards. So not too much to explain there. just going to show off some of these tokens that I used to try to summon Plasma out with, but I didn't really get to use them too often, but, so I just want to show them. Alright, then the extra deck. Not very important, but I'll show it off anyway. So it's Colossal, Army Arm, Mistworm, Goyle, Stardust, Black Rose, Brio, Android, Junk Archer. This is probably the only weird thing that other lists didn't use, but me and Sean talked about this, and we figured this is kind of like a pseudo Gaia, where Gaia he comes on the board, he'll deal 2200 damage. Junk Archer, when he comes out, he'll banish a Raikou out of the way and just deal 2300. So we thought it fits the style of the deck of just being aggressive, so we wanted to try him out, but never came up. Junk Warrior, Catastor, and then the actual stars of the show, 3 zeros and a Gaia. Again, not too much to explain there. So, okay. Alright, the last bit is side deck. Go with Double Vanny's Fiend. Very typical for Frog Hero lists, or just Frog lists in general. Some things I was doing throughout the rounds was if I wasn't 100% sure how big pulling the rug was in this format still. So even if I felt like Caius was a great card against a certain matchup, I still sided out just one Caius and put a Vanny's Fiend in just to try to play around pulling the rug. And if I felt okay, he probably doesn't have it because I saw a good amount of his deck, I'll probably switch it back out. But I thought that was just a cool way to try that. So, usually one came in. But if I did see pulling the rug, normally I would side out 2 Caiuses at least to put in 2 Vanny's Fiends just to, or especially if I saw GBs, which I thankfully didn't play any GBs the whole weekend. I thought this was a great call to use against them, so did that. Double Dedecrow, very generic side card. Then Desfrog. This is something I learned from watching some videos. I thought it was a really smart idea to side this in against GBs and Blackwings, just considering you could bring out a 1900 monster that can't die by battle, so it goes through Kalut. He's huge against GBs because he just is bigger than everything in their entire deck. And so since this was considered a GB country kind of event, I decided I really want to make sure this card's in my side deck, so go with that. Next up, side deck the Breaker. Again, it's really good, nice to bounce with Swap Rock. And then I went with a Fossil Dyna. This was originally a third Vanny's Fiend, because like I said, I just really like this against GBs, but I was more concerned about going against a Titanium. So I wanted something that I can, out a established Titanium with, and also it's just good against Frogs, so I thought this was a very safe choice. And it's an easier summon than Vanny's Fiend itself. And it actually did come up a couple times, so really glad I had him in my side deck. And again, for more altitude Titanium, I side deck Lightning Vortex. Altitude Plants, Lightsworn, etc. I don't really side this in against Blackwing. I know some people do, but I'm not a huge fan of doing that. Just because I feel like I don't see Blackwings having wide boards, and if they do, you're probably dead anyway. So I didn't really side this in against Blackwing. But the card I did side against Blackwing was Soul Exchange, especially if I'm going second. This card shuts off Icarus attacks, and it's great against GBs, obviously, to turn off War Chariots, breaks the dupe walls, can help out Vanny's Fiends or False Dyna, so yeah, this was really, really good. I side decked a third Water Art, just whenever I go first, because again, this card is just absolutely amazing. The amount of things you can do with the knowledge of your opponent's hand, you can pretty much control how their turn's going to go, and that's an amazing feeling considering with this deck being so aggressive. When you can push in and just go for game. So it's really, really good. Then I set a triple dust, double D prison. A lot of the side builds or side decks, have this kind of lineup in their side deck. And when I was talking this over with Sean, I think we kind of agreed, and I'm assuming other people thought the same way, is just when this deck gets people to a simplified game state where there's just so few cards, it's 3 cards versus your 3 cards, my 3 cards gonna be better. It's just a hand of Monarchs, Miracle Fusion, like Frog stuff and etc. And this deck just does so much with so little that once you get to a simplified game state, you're probably gonna win 90% of the time. So having like these cards to just out stuff like Oppression, Skill Drain, like the usual floodgates and such, and these 2 to out the mainstream and Dyna, everything else will take care of itself, and you just run away with the Monarchs and Absolute Zero. So yeah, that's my deck profile that I used at Raleigh to take it all down. So again, just wanted to say, thanks for Usual for hosting the event. I love this playmat. I'm not usually big on custom playmats, as most people know, but I cannot say enough good things about how great this playmat looks. And also Darker Dragon is like my favorite card, so really happy I won this. So hope you guys stay tuned. I'm going to try to post more videos with some ideas that hopefully some of you guys have never seen before, and just give a comment, see if you have any questions. I'm open to answer anything about more side decking choices or my tournament experience itself. But so thanks for watching. Catch you later.